407-678-3399. All right. You know the routine here, folks. We are live. You can call us. The number is 407-774-8255. I am Christopher Hart. In the studio joining with me here today is the Commanding General of the American Adversaries Army, and of course that would be Colonel Danny McKnight. Colonel, thanks again for being on the show.
Happy to be here again, Chris. Glad to do it as often as I possibly can.
I tell you, we can't get enough of your expertise, that's for sure, and of course your company as well. Nicholas Cicero is on the bridge tonight, and we have Lucas Paris in the studio, so he's got us up on his Pariscope, which means you can go to YouTube and dial in Adversaries TV, type in Pariscope, and then you'll be able to see the Colonel and I here in the studio. We're going to be joined a little bit later on today by Abe Katzman, who'll be joining us live from Jerusalem. And then a little bit later on, we're also going to be joined by John Barros in the studio. And once again, he's going to give us an update on some of the good things that have been happening in regards to True Life Choice and his efforts to get women to reconsider having abortions. So that doesn't mean you can't give us a call. Once again, 407-774-8255 is the number. I just want to go through some, get some headline news out of the way here, and then I want to go right to Colonel McKnight. Because there are some things happening in the Middle East that I'd like to get his opinion on. First of all, today is the first Monday in October. That means the Supreme Court is back in session, and the rumors are there are going to be a number of cases that they will be hearing that it looks like the conservatives are going to get some victories this year. Well, thanks a lot. How about give us the victories in the big cases where it really matters, you know, like Obamacare and same-sex marriage and all that good stuff. Don't throw us a few crumbs later on and think we're going to feel good about it all. Also, the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal appears to have been done. I shudder to think what's in it, but we shall now find out, I guess. It's one of those things you had to pass it to find out what's in it. And so we're going to see that's a trade deal that encompasses some 13 nations, including the United States, around the Pacific Rim there, excluding China, and don't think that they won't like being excluded from the Pacific Partnership. And Jason Chaffetz threw his hat in the ring over the weekend for speakership of the House, and that makes now 3 official candidates, and they're supposedly ghost candidates out there, those who are lurking in the wings, so to speak, ready to pounce once Kevin McCarthy is more or less shut aside or shut out. There will be evidently a vote on Thursday, which will choose supposedly Kevin McCarthy as the sort of the candidate, the official candidate, and then they will have to have a final vote to actually put him into the Speaker's chair. And so that intrigue will go on at least during this week. And of course, our very own Dan Webster is right in the middle of it, and we're working to get him on the air hopefully this week. But once again, if you want to express your opinion, you can do so by calling the the Capitol switchboard at 2-234-3121. And we've been giving that number out, so hopefully you've written it down and give them a call if you feel moved. I think Dan Webster will be a good speaker, but in this atmosphere, perhaps that is an impossible task. All right, speaking of impossible tasks, it seems to be impossible for this president to come up with a coherent strategy in the Middle East, but it doesn't seem to have been too difficult for Vladimir Putin, Colonel.
Yeah, he didn't wait long to do what he wanted to do, did he?
Well, he waited for the right moment, evidently. Got the Iran deal done, which ties our hands with Iran. Whatever now Iran wants to do, we're going to have to let them do it.
Yeah.
Because they're our new partners.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right. Great partnership, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, boy, yeah. They get everything they want, and we get screwed.
Yeah, that's like me having a partnership with the University of Florida or something, you know. Being a Seminole, I say that, jokingly anyway. But I mean, it really is. It's ridiculous that's who we consider having a partnership with in the Mideast. After all that has happened with Iran in the history with us, and that's who we decide. It's just amazing to me, and I don't know why that could be acceptable to the American public.
Well, evidently, we are now working to become partners with Vladimir Putin and Russia.
Well, I don't know that he wants us to be his partner, for one thing, in all honesty, because he is very willing to do what he wants to do, okay, as he recently did with the bombing in Syria, which I don't agree with what he did, obviously, because they obviously didn't hit the right target, and innocent people die. Anytime innocent people die, they need to relook what they're doing. I think that was overly aggressive. You didn't make sure of what the target was going to be, and when innocent civilians die, we've made a mistake. They made a mistake in this case because, see, the simple process to me is you put eyes on the target before you bomb it. That means you have people that are in the area, and you can do that every time. You can do that.
And to underline your point there, it seems as though we didn't have American eyes on the target in Afghanistan, which we bombed, evidently, and the military is saying today, evidently, that the people who called in the bombing were Afghani units, and of course the bombing it turned out to be a hospital.
Yes, and I can't even put into words how much that bothered me to see that happen. We're supposed to be the number one military force in the world, and I think we still are. But when you do stuff like that, you immediately discredit yourself so quickly. And to say that, well, now we're going to blame it on the Afghans, that's the reason we need people on the ground. I don't care about the Afghans. If I'm going to drop bombs from American airplanes, we're going to have to put our people. Then it's our responsibility for what happens. So now we're trying to deflect it, and I hate to say it, but that's what they're trying to do.
Sure.
Our president and all the other people, they're trying to deflect it by saying, well, it wasn't our people that called it in. Well, Dad burn it, it was your responsibility to make sure it was the right target.
It was American-made, American-dropped munitions.
Exactly.
And so, we're the ones who put the bomb on the target. But it just underlines your point that, we can't do these half measures. Half measures just never work. They always end up coming out bad.
Absolutely.
And it goes back to what you talk about in your book, Streets of Mogadishu, where you make the easy wrong choice. The half measures are the easy wrong choices rather than the difficult right choice.
Yeah, and that sort of falls in perfectly there because the choice they made was the easy one. Let somebody else tell us that the target's a good target.
Right.
And that was obviously not a good target. And I wonder, was it a setup by the Afghans to say, let's get the Americans in trouble? They don't love us.
Right.
I mean, come on, let's be honest, folks. They don't love us, okay? Right. And, was that part of it? So we chose the easy wrong. We chose the easy way. It turned out to be wrong, and now we're trying to blame it on somebody else. I am sorry, but I believe that most of the American military would say the same thing. If it's our bombs and our planes and our people, we are responsible, whether the president gets it or not, which obviously he doesn't.
And in spite of the fact that this has gotten and will get very little attention from the mainstream, the national media types, this has been taken note of around the rest of the world. In other words, they will be talking about it, even if the press here is not.
It's going to be a major issue at the UN. They're a bunch of idiots when we know that in the UN, but they are extremely disturbed by this, and they have said that they consider this a war crime. I don't know that I take it that far because I'm not sure what the war is right now that we're fighting in Afghanistan anyway, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that. But to say a war crime, I'm not sure it's that, but you're right. There are a lot of people going to be talking about this. Might not be the American media, but there'll be a lot of others.
Yeah, Colonel, we were discussing this a little bit last week, and we got a caller, and he reminded us of that incident before the last election where President Obama was in a little photograph session sitting in a chair side by side with then President Medvedev, or whatever his name is, over there in Russia. And where he said, after the election, I'll be able to be a little bit more flexible, in dealings. And at that time, I think I gave him the nickname Gumby, for being so flexible. But is it possible that this president is already working with the Russians, and that what's going on in Syria, even though the White House, acts angry, they act like they were, this wasn't what they were expecting from Putin. Might it be that this is exactly what they wanted all along? Because, the more I look at this, And when we were talking with Abe Katzman last week, and we'll bring it up with him again tonight, Mike McBath asked him, could this just be a quagmire for Putin? And I don't know that Barack Obama is thinking about it from that, but more let Vladimir take care of the problem, and I can wash my hands of it. Do you think there's a possibility of that going on here?
I think there's a possibility of it, but at the same time, I think Putin's smarter than Obama.
No doubt.
We'll answer that part real quick. Okay?
Yeah.
I think he's smarter than Obama is. He's going to do what he thinks is right. He has no regard for what Obama thinks. So I don't know that he is part of that, but there may be people over there above him, which, in some of the other positions like you're talking about, that could be influencing some of the actions that are going on. But I don't think Putin would buy in himself to it. But, sometimes you don't get all the support you need, and maybe that's what he's running into. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, certainly we're going to now see how the Russians conduct this war, because they will now be fully in charge. I don't think there's any question about that. And but having seen what they're doing so far, does it appear to you that they basically are consolidating the territory that Assad controls now, but maybe perhaps setting themselves up to move out from there?
I think so, and
the fact they brought in tanks and things.
Exactly. So they got more there than just doing airstrikes.
Right.
See, so that's the other piece that's important. They are doing more. So it seems like they are going to make a definite push to try and get something done by not using just airstrikes, which is all we've been willing to do.
Right.
As you and I know, we've got advisors on the ground, advising the Syrian. I think Putin will do it the other way. He will put what he wants on the ground to fight the fight. That's how you win. You don't win just with airstrikes.
All right, let's assume that Barack and Vladimir aren't working somehow together on this. And we have, as you said, advisors. I believe we have special forces. The administration has already admitted on the ground in Syria. What do you think that there will be a problem? I mean, should we expect perhaps the Russians and our special forces at some point coming face to face
and accidentally get in a friendly fire? We'll call it friendly fire because we're supposed to be friendly in that case if we're fighting the Syrian problem, right?
Right.
Could it happen? Yes, it can happen. There is no doubt in my mind it could happen. I hope it doesn't, but yes, without question, it could happen. And
what do you think the president's response would be?
Well, it depends on if we get anybody killed, which obviously we could and they could. I think he will try to chastise Putin, and then we're going to see what really happens after that.
Yeah.
Okay, because Putin he just does not listen to Obama, and you have to admire him for that. You really do. I mean, come on. Yep. What has he done that that's made a difference? He hasn't. Putin does make a difference.